Mike's a veteran in satellite industry, and one of the things that's really interesting to me about Hummingbird and about Svista 12 is the idea that we hear a lot about, big legacy satellites, and we hear a lot about the incredible niftiness of small satellites and microsatellites that get thrown off carefully deployed off the ISS by nanoracks. But Hummingbird is an attempt to do something in between, an attempt to do a medium sat. So tell us a little bit about the thinking that went behind identifying that niche.
Happy to. So HummingSat, technically that's our brand name, HummingSat. It's like a hummingbird, so small, agile. Who doesn't like a hummingbird, right? So it's really a smaller version of the big geo satellites that we saw a picture earlier, the picture of everything in orbit. You could clearly see all the geos. They were optimized for being as big as possible with the rockets that were available. What didn't exist was a small geo. And so it is a similar performance in terms of per channel, same type of performance, but fewer channels or less capacity. What that does is it opens up the door to new customers, to new markets who before they couldn't justify the cost of a big geo in a launch. That's really what we're doing.
And so why would these customers not buy a whole bunch of LEO bandwidth? Why would they want their own satellite?
I mean, there's room for both orbits. I mean, multi-orbit strategy makes sense, but in some cases, there's a lot of value to GEO because with one satellite, you can begin service. You don't need to launch hundreds or thousands. And, the part of the theme today was for sovereign assets, for example, sovereignty. Many more countries could have their own dedicated GEO now than whereas before it was too large of an undertaking. With one small GEO, you can cover one or more countries, but with a big GEO, you really need to cover a lot of landmass.
Well, presumably one of the challenges for you is that small sats do things with different technology. You're basically using big geosat technology, but in smaller packages. Does that tie you into their supply chain for good or for ill?
Well, it's a hybrid because Svista 12's background is really for additive manufacturing of RF products. So the company developed that. It's not just for space; it's also for ground and in the air. We can take those products, which are offer high performance, or they're compact, low mass, low cost, put those on the satellite. So at the end of the day, we make some hundreds of parts of RF parts for the satellite, but then we're not vertically integrated, so you have to buy the rest. And it turns out that to have a long life GEO mission, 15 years in GEO, we end up with the legacy suppliers because they have quality and robust product. And today, it's not clear that new space, if you will, whatever that means, works in GEO. Of course, it works in LEO, but GEO, the thing has to be robust. The customers want something that replaces the older satellites with the same kind of performance, including reliability. And we have I always say the two best customers we can start with, Intelsat and Inmarsat, or now it's Viasat. These are two excellent reference customers, and they want the same kind of product they had, but just smaller.
But in terms of sort of like capital at risk, isn't there an argument for actually accepting a slightly higher risk if you're investing a smaller amount?
Well, yes and no. We still have insurance, so yes, these assets need to be insured. We have a rigorous design process. The products themselves are qualified. I have to give a shout out to ESA as well. We have an ESA partnership program, including not just financial, but also a lot of technical oversight from ESA. So in the end, we have a very robust product that is going to last a long time. And, we'll be into the 2040s when we start to retire these.
And when you talk about, you talk about Viasat and Intelsat, but also the possibility of sovereign capabilities. Do you have any sovereign customers lined up at the moment?
There's several in mind, but...
In your mind or in their mind?
Hopefully both. But no, it's a long list because there's, again, it opens the door to countries that previously couldn't even consider it. And we learned that a lot of countries, they do have orbital slots, they do have spectrum, but maybe you're not utilizing it. So I think you'll see more of it as time goes by.
But you don't want to mention anything because there aren't many people here, and they're not very talkative. So you could, you know.
Well, there was a Space News article that talked about the U.S. Space Force, for example. That's an example where it's
Not people who really need a new sovereign capability, though.
no, but in their case, it's a diversified capability. So instead of having a large geo that maybe cost $1 billion, you could have many smaller geos and diversify as needed.
Now, you said HummingSat is like hummingbirds, and everybody loves hummingbirds, and this is absolutely empirically true. Everybody loves hummingbirds. Get an insect that big, everyone hates it. Hummingbird, fine. But one of the things about hummingbirds is that their excellence at in-flight refueling. Are you looking at that for HummingSat? I mean, if I was starting out in a satellite business, I'd be thinking, I need to make this, again, to go back to what Maria was saying, I need to make this something that can be sustained, that can go on working.
Yeah, certainly we get that request a lot. Today, the baseline is to carry the fuel for 15 years, the propellant. The satellite may continue operating at that point, but it is sized for 15 years. In the future, we could certainly retrofit a refueling capability, but it's really hard today to make that the baseline because it hasn't been demonstrated on orbit yet. It will, right? But you know, it's important to keep an eye on technology and how things evolve and to evolve with it.
But it's also important not to charge your customers for technologies that they can't yet use.
I mean, eventually they will. But again, we do our own orbit raise, but there's going to be direct to geo launches too. So it's the same. You know, it's the math of how do we get up there, and not easy to get to geo and not easy to stay for.
What's your base case? Is it raised orbit or is it GTO and?
Well, I mean, a GTO, for example, with a self-orbit raise, that's the baseline.
Right.
There could be, with the Falcon Heavy, for example, there could be a direct to geo, but that's more of opportunity. You have to pay for it.
Right.
So we have to be open to different solutions.
And are you offering imaging capabilities as well as communication capabilities, or?
Today, the focus is on telecom, but again, with the idea that the platform is a resource we can reuse, we can replace the payload each time. So if we have the right case with a non-telecom payload, we could certainly accommodate that in GEO. But the focus is GEO.
Right. And that would, presumably the imaging or something non-communications might be can you do a hybrid with communications and? Because I was thinking if I'm a small nation looking for a capability, that might be the sort of thing I might want.
We could. It's a resource. You have power, you have mass, you have fuel. You can use thermal as the other capability, capacity. You can use them up until the box is full, essentially. That's how we look at it. Yeah.
And when do we see one?
For launch? So right now, targeting middle of 26. So Intelsat 45, they booked an Ariane 6 launch. Eager to see more Ariane 6 launches in the meantime, but yeah, that's going to be a really big day for us. We've also just established a mission control facility in Georgia. So that
I'm assuming American Georgia.
American Georgia, good point, touche. It is a Swiss company. I should say I lead a U.S. operation based in California, but for personnel reasons, the mission control will be in Georgia.
Right. Okay. And the Swiss connection being also presumably one of the things that plugs you into ESA.
Yes. So Switzerland, part of ESA, not part of the EU, but part of ESA.
Canny shoppers. So I'm opening this up to questions from anyone who wants to have or know more about a medium-sized GeoSat. So I can't see. Are you scratching your nose or gesturing at me? No, they've all gone quiet. They've all gone quiet, Mike. Oh, no, he's not gone quiet. There we go.
Thanks. Lutz Richter here with SoftSurf. Yeah, have you selected already the platform developer, the satellite platform developer?
Yes.
Or you're doing it all yourselves? I doubt that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's developed by Swista 12, so we are a prime. Um, but there's a lot of partners, suppliers involved. So, but yes, everything's baseline. We've gone through PDR. We're on our way to CDR. We're actually taking delivery of a lot of hardware now. So it's
All
been
right.
work-
No, because I've come across your company previously in the antenna business, let's
Yes.
say. But now you're also taking on the satellite
Yes.
development.
Yep.
Oh,
And
well
where
done.
are you actually? Sorry. Where are you actually doing the integration?
So it's coming together in Switzerland. So we're in Lausanne, Switzerland, on the French-speaking side of Switzerland. Wonderful place.
Does that give you any ITAR issues?
No, so we do need to follow export control. As I said, that I'm located in the U.S. I have a team there. We follow U.S. export law. We have to follow European export law. So in general, we don't want to have anything ITAR, but it's not insurmountable if you have to. But in general, it's not ITAR.
And just going personally, what got you into the space business originally?
I mean, as some of the other presenters mentioned, grew up in the post-Apollo era, let's say, the shuttle era. Always wanted to work in space. Telecom satellites was a good fit. I mean, I used to work at a large company that's back in the day when we'd have 20 to 25 big geos a year. The industry has evolved, but there's still a demand for geo, and small geo is a nice fit for us.
Cool. One more question there. Just making Tony do his work and run to you.
How are you taking into consideration the cybersecurity aspect of what you're doing in terms of the frequency, the 5G, and all the other kind of telecommunications that you're offering?
Sure. So the satellite itself for the command and control is encrypted. I mean, that's required. The data itself, I mean, our payloads are telecom, so the data itself, in some cases, may be encrypted, but that's typically more on the customer side. But the satellite control itself is encrypted.
I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anyone again. No, good. Well, thank you very much, Mike. That was a real
Thank you.
pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.